This place is too luxurious for her, Mom announced to the cluster of guests gathered near the infinity pool. She belongs at budget motels. I don't even know why she came. My sister Daniela laughed, adjusting her designer sunglasses. Seriously, Morgan. This is a 5-star resort. Did you max out a credit card just to embarrass yourself? I continued sunbathing, letting the Caribbean breeze wash over me. The resort manager hurried across the deck, his face tight with concern. Ma'am, your family's behavior is concerning other guests. Shall I have them removed from the property? Every head on the pool deck turned. Mom's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Their faces dropped. I was 12 years old when I learned exactly where I stood in the Harrison family hierarchy. Dad had just closed a major real estate deal, $2.3 million for a commercial property downtown. To celebrate, he announced we were going to Disney World. Daniela, then 15, squealed with excitement. Mom immediately started planning matching outfits for the trip. Morgan can stay with Grandma, Dad said, not even looking at me. It's expensive and Daniela's been working so hard on her grades. Daniela had a 2.8 GPA. I had a 3.9. But that didn't matter. Never mattered. She'll just complain about the heat anyway, Mom added. You know how she is. I spent that week at Grandma's house watching my family post photos from Magic Kingdom. Daniela in princess ears. Mom and Dad beaming beside Cinderella's castle. A perfect family of 3. Grandma found me crying on the 3rd night. She didn't say much, she never did, but she handed me a worn leather journal. Write down everything you want, she said. Every dream. Every goal. And then figure out how to get it yourself. Because those people. She nodded toward the phone showing another Disney photo. They're never going to give it to you. I filled that journal in 3 months. The second memory that carved itself into my bones happened at 16. I'd been accepted into a prestigious summer business program at Stanford, one of only 40 high school students nationwide. Full scholarship. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday and I was so excited my hands were shaking. Mom, Dad, look. I burst into the living room where they were reviewing Daniela's college applications. Stanford. They accepted me. Dad glanced at the letter for maybe 3 seconds. That's nice, Morgan. But we're busy. Daniela's applying to Northwestern and her application essay needs work. This is Stanford, I repeated. A full scholarship. For business. Mom sighed. Honey, let's be realistic. Business isn't really your thing. You're more of a creative type. Maybe focus on something more suited to your abilities. But Morgan. Dad's voice hardened. Your sister's future is important. This little summer camp can wait. Daniela smirked at me from behind her laptop. I went to that program. I took 3 buses and a train to get there. I told them I was staying with a friend. At Stanford, I met Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, a venture capitalist who ran the program. On the last day, she pulled me aside. You have something, Morgan. I've been doing this for 22 years and I know hunger when I see it. Stay in touch. I kept that business card in my wallet for the next 11 years. The third memory, the one that finally broke something inside me, happened at 23. I just graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in computer science and a minor in business. I'd worked 2 jobs throughout college, graduated with honors, and landed a position at a tech startup in San Francisco. Starting salary, $94,000 plus equity. I drove home for Christmas, genuinely excited to share my news. The family was gathered in the living room. Daniela, freshly engaged to Bradley Winthrop III, was showing off her 3.2-carat ring. Bradley's family owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the Midwest. Not exactly generational wealth, but enough to make my parents salivate. Morgan. Mom barely glanced up. Come see your sister's ring. Bradley proposed at the country club. Isn't it gorgeous? It's beautiful, I said and meant it. Congratulations, Daniela. Thanks. Daniela examined her nails. So what are you doing now? Still at that coffee shop. Actually, I graduated. Berkeley. I got a job at. That's nice. Mom cut me off. Daniela, tell Morgan about the wedding venue. They're considering the Ritz-Carlton. It's in San Francisco. I tried again. The job. It's a tech startup and they're. Morgan, please. Dad held up a hand. We're discussing important family matters. Your little computer thing can wait. Bradley leaned over to Daniela, not bothering to whisper. Is she always like this? Trying to make everything about herself. Daniela rolled her eyes. She's the family disappointment. Just ignore her. I left that night without saying goodbye. I didn't go home for Christmas again for 4 years. What my family didn't know, what they never bothered to ask about, was what happened after I walked out that door. The startup I joined was called Coral Tech. We built cybersecurity software for financial institutions. Within 18 months, I'd been promoted 3 times. Within 3 years, I was Chief Technology Officer. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, the venture capitalist from Stanford, became my mentor. When I called her about expanding Coral Tech, she introduced me to her network. We raised $47 million in Series B funding. By 28, I'd sold my equity stake in Coral Tech for $31 million after taxes. Most people would have retired. I was just getting started. I took that money and did what I'd dreamed about since Grandma handed me that journal. I started buying properties. Not houses. Hotels. Resorts. Boutique properties that needed renovation and vision. My company, Paramount Coastal Holdings, now owned 14 properties across the Caribbean, Florida, and California. Total portfolio value, $340 million. My personal net worth, according to my accountant last quarter, $127 million. I never told my family. Not because I was hiding it, but because they never asked. Not once in 11 years did anyone call to say, "How's work going, Morgan?" Not once did they express curiosity about my life. So I let them believe whatever they wanted to believe. And then last summer something interesting happened. A property came on the market. An exclusive beach resort in St. Lucia called Azure Cove. The same resort my family had vacationed at for the past 6 years. The same resort they bragged about constantly. The same resort where they held Daniela's anniversary parties and Dad's 60th birthday celebration. The same resort where I was never invited. The owner was retiring. He wanted $18.5 million cash deal quick close. I paid $18 million. The family group chat buzzed on a Wednesday morning. I was in my office overlooking San Francisco Bay when the notification popped up. Mom, big news. Dad and I are taking everyone to Azure Cove for Daniela's 10th anniversary celebration. July 14th to 21st. Bradley's parents are coming too. It's going to be wonderful. Daniela, OMG yes. I've been wanting to go back. Best resort ever. Dad, already booked the Grand Villa. Spare no expense for our girl. Bradley, the Winthrops are excited. Class establishment. I watched the messages scroll. 23 of them over the next hour. Discussions about spa treatments, dinner reservations, excursions. No one mentioned me. 3 days later, I received a formal invitation in the mail, not to join them but to contribute to Daniela's celebration fund. The suggested contribution, $5,000. A sticky note in Mom's handwriting was attached. It would mean so much to your sister if you could help make this special. We know money is tight for you, so even $500 would be appreciated. Don't feel obligated to attend, the resort is quite expensive. I stared at that note for a long time. Then I called my property manager at Azure Cove. James, I need the guest list for July 14th through 21st. Specifically the Harrison party. One moment, Ms. Harrison. Keys clicked. Yes, we have a reservation for Thomas Harrison. Grand Villa 7 nights confirmed. Total booking value, $38,400. There's a note here that says, let me see. VIP treatment, long-standing family guests. Interesting. Please flag that reservation. I'll be visiting that week. Prepare my private residence. Of course, ma'am. Shall I inform the staff of any special arrangements? Just standard protocols. And James? Let's keep my arrival quiet. I'd like to observe. I flew into St. Lucia on July 15th, one day after my family arrived. My private residence at Azure Cove sat on a secluded cliff overlooking the beach, separate from the main resort, accessible only by a private path. The staff knew me as the owner. The guests knew nothing. That morning, I put on a simple sundress and walked down to the main pool area. Just another guest enjoying the sun. I spotted them immediately. Daniela lounged on a daybed, barking orders at a server. This mimosa is warm. Bring me another one. And make sure there's more ice this time. Mom sat beside her, loudly comparing Azure Cove to that dreadful sandals we tried once. So common. Dad was explaining to Bradley's parents how he'd discovered this resort years ago, before it became popular. We practically put this place on the map. I settled onto a lounge chair about 30 feet away. Close enough to hear, far enough to avoid notice. For about 20 minutes. Oh my God. Daniela's voice carried across the pool. Is that Morgan? Mom's head snapped toward me. Her expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and finally settled on irritation. What is she doing here? Thomas, did you invite her? Absolutely not. Dad set down his drink. Morgan. Come here. I walked over calmly. Hi everyone. How did you get here? Mom demanded. We specifically didn't invite you because, she caught herself, glancing at Bradley's parents. Because we knew you couldn't afford it. The rooms here are $800 a night minimum, Daniela added. Did you sell your car or something? I smiled. I had some vacation time saved up. Vacation time? Dad snorted. From what? That little tech job you mentioned 8 years ago. Something like that. Bradley's mother, Patricia Winthrop, looked me up and down with practiced disdain. This is the other daughter? The one who works in, what was it? Customer service. She does something with computers, Mom said dismissively. Very entry-level. Morgan, honey, this is embarrassing. The Winthrops are important people. Maybe you should find a different resort? There's a nice Holiday Inn on the other side of the island. I nodded politely. I'm fine here. Thank you for the concern. This place is too luxurious for her, Mom announced, loud enough for neighboring guests to hear. She belongs at budget motels. I don't even know why she came. I spent the next 2 days watching my family perform. They were magnificent in their cruelty, casual, practiced, utterly convinced of their superiority. Every interaction became an opportunity to diminish me. At breakfast the second morning, Daniela made a show of examining the menu. Morgan, you probably shouldn't order the lobster Benedict. It's $65. Maybe stick to the continental breakfast. The fruit plate is free, Mom added helpfully. I ordered the lobster Benedict. When the server brought it, Dad loudly told Bradley's parents, she's probably putting it on a credit card she'll never pay off. Financial idiot, that one. Gets it from my side. My father was the same way. I took a bite. It was delicious. During a beach excursion, I overheard Bradley talking to his father near the kayak rental stand. The Harrisons keep apologizing for her, Bradley said. Apparently she's the family embarrassment. No husband, no career, no prospects. Thomas says she'll probably end up asking them for money eventually. Everyone does. Every family has one, Mr. Winthrop chuckled. Just keep her away from the important conversations. I paddled my kayak past them without a word. What none of them knew was that while they were mocking my presence, I was conducting business. Azure Cove had performed exceptionally in the 8 months since I'd acquired it. Revenue was up 34% year-over-year. We'd completed $2.1 million in renovations, including the new spa wing that Daniela kept raving about. TripAdvisor had named us the number 3 luxury resort in the Caribbean. Each morning before my family woke, I met with James Chin, the resort manager, in my private residence. The Harrison party has made 14 complaints in 3 days, James reported on day 3. The daughter sent back her dinner twice last night. The mother demanded her room be recleaned because she found a speck on the bathroom mirror. The father tried to get a 50% discount because, and I'm quoting here, we're basically celebrities here. And how has staff responded? Professionally as always, but morale is strained. Mr. Harrison grabbed a server's arm yesterday. Hard enough to leave a mark. We have it on camera. My jaw tightened. Document everything. HR protocols. Already done, ma'am. Also, I should mention, your father has been telling other guests that he's close personal friends with the owners. He claimed to have invested in the property. Did he? He's been using it to get preferential treatment at the restaurant. Cutting lines. Demanding the best tables. I sipped my coffee and looked out at the ocean. Let's see how the rest of the week unfolds. The real trouble started on day 4. I was sunbathing by the infinity pool, my usual spot, quiet, unobtrusive, when the incident occurred. Daniela had been drinking since 11 a.m. By 2 p.m. she was loud, belligerent, and determined to prove her status. Do you know who we are? She stood over a young couple who'd taken her daybed. We've been coming here for 6 years. 6 years. You think you can just take our spot? The couple, newlyweds I later learned celebrating their honeymoon, looked mortified. We didn't know it was reserved, the husband said. There wasn't a sign. I don't need a sign. Everyone knows this is our spot. Right, Mom? Mom marched over. Is there a problem here? These people stole our daybed. How dare you? Mom turned on the couple. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? My husband practically built this resort. We could have you thrown out. Ma'am, we really didn't mean. Save it. Daniela snapped her fingers at a passing server. Get the manager. Now. I watched this unfold from behind my sunglasses. Watched the couple shrink. Watched my family swell with righteous indignation. Watched other guests turn away, uncomfortable, not wanting to get involved. James appeared within 2 minutes, his face carefully neutral. Is there an issue, Mrs. Winthrop? These people took our daybed. We want them moved. I'm afraid the pool daybeds aren't reservable, ma'am. First come, first served is our policy. Your policy is wrong. Daniela stepped closer to him. Do you know how much money we've spent here over the years? My father knows the owners personally. One call and you're fired. James's eye twitched almost imperceptibly. Ma'am, I apologize for any inconvenience. I don't want apologies. I want results. Move them. The young wife was crying now. Her husband had his arm around her, trying to guide her away. I stood up. Excuse me, I said quietly, approaching the group. Perhaps there's a compromise? There are several empty daybeds on the east side of the pool. Daniela wheeled on me. Stay out of this, Morgan. This doesn't concern you. I'm just suggesting. What would you know about how resorts work? You probably think this is fancy because it has towels. She laughed at her own joke. Go back to your corner and let the adults handle this. Mom nodded vigorously. She's right, Morgan. You're embarrassing yourself. Again. I looked at the crying bride. At her humiliated husband. At James, whose professional mask was cracking. Then I looked at my family. Understood, I said quietly. I'll stay out of it. I walked away. Behind me I heard Daniela's triumphant voice. That's right. Walk away. It's what you're good at. The anniversary dinner was scheduled for day 5. Daniela had demanded the resort's finest private dining room, a $12,000 wine pairing menu, and a live string quartet. Only the best for our anniversary, she'd announced at breakfast. 10 years of marriage deserves to be celebrated properly. Not that Morgan would understand. What's the longest relationship you've ever had? 3 months. Something like that, I said. What I didn't say was that I'd been quietly dating Dr. Marcus Webb, a cardiovascular surgeon at Stanford Medical, for 2 years. We'd discussed marriage. We'd discussed children. We'd discussed everything except telling my family, because Marcus had seen enough of their treatment to understand why I kept that part of my life private. Just make sure you're not at dinner, Dad added. It's family only. Important family. I nodded. At 7 p.m. I sat on the terrace of my private residence, watching the sun set over the Caribbean. James had sent me the evening report. The dinner was proceeding, the string quartet was playing, and my family was running up a tab that would make most people's annual salary look modest. At 7:47 p.m. my phone buzzed. James Chin, emergency. Your family has assaulted a staff member. Your father pushed Roberto into a wall. Need you immediately. I was at the private dining room in 4 minutes. The scene was chaos. Dad stood red-faced in the center of the room, pointing at a server, Roberto, a 23-year-old from the island who'd worked at Azure Cove for 3 years. Roberto's shoulder was against the wall, his face pale. I said the steak was overcooked. Dad bellowed. And this idiot brought me the same thing twice. Sir, I apologize, but the kitchen confirmed it was prepared to your specification. Are you calling me a liar? Dad stepped forward. Do you know who I am? I'm Thomas Harrison. I know the owners of this resort personally. James stood between them, hands raised. Mr. Harrison, please. Let's discuss this calmly. Calm. Dad's face was purple. I've spent over $40,000 at this resort this week alone. I demand respect. You've spent $38,400, James said quietly. And currently, your account is on hold pending a review of multiple incidents. The room went silent. Daniela's fork clattered against her plate. On hold. Mom's voice cracked. What do you mean on hold? I mean that due to multiple complaints from other guests, harassment of staff, and now physical assault, your account has been flagged for management review. This is outrageous. Dad sputtered. I demand to speak to the owner. Right now. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Get me the owner on the phone, or I'll sue this entire resort into the ground. James took a breath. Then he looked at me standing in the doorway. Ma'am, he said. How would you like to proceed? Every head in the room turned. Mom's face went pale. Daniela's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Bradley's father dropped his napkin. I'm sorry, Dad said slowly. Did you just call her ma'am? Why are you asking her? James straightened. Because Ms. Harrison is the owner of Azure Cove Resort. She acquired the property 8 months ago for $18 million. Dead silence. I stepped into the room. The acquisition was finalized last November, I said calmly. Through my company Paramount Coastal Holdings. We also own 13 other properties across the Caribbean and Florida. Total portfolio value, $340 million. Nobody moved. Your daughter, Bradley's mother whispered, owns this resort? Apparently so, James confirmed. Ms. Morgan Harrison is our sole proprietor. She's been in residence since July 15th. Dad's hand trembled. That's not possible. You work in customer service. You're a nobody. I was chief technology officer of Coraltech before I sold my stake for $31 million, I replied. That was 5 years ago. I've been building Paramount Coastal Holdings ever since. No. Mom shook her head frantically. No, moo. You can't own this resort. We've been coming here for 6 years. This is our place. Our special place. And I appreciated that, actually. Azure Cove was profitable and well-reviewed when I acquired it. Your patronage contributed to that. Contributed. Daniela stood abruptly, her chair scraping backward. We made this place. Daddy brings clients here. We tell everyone about it. You can't just own it. I suggested. Her face contorted with rage. You did this on purpose. You bought this resort to humiliate us. No, Daniela. I bought this resort because it was a sound investment. The fact that you vacation here never factored into the decision. I paused. Though I admit the irony isn't lost on me. This is insane. Bradley stood, placing a hand on Daniela's shoulder. My family doesn't get involved in whatever this family drama is. We're leaving. You're welcome to leave, I said. Though I should mention, your tab for this week is $42,847. The account hold applies to all members of your party. The color drained from Bradley's face. 42,000? His voice cracked. Thomas, you said this trip was covered. Dad wouldn't meet his eyes. Thomas. Bradley's father stood slowly, his voice deadly quiet. You told us you were comping this trip. You said you had connections with ownership. I thought I did, Dad muttered. I thought. You thought what? I asked. That coming here for 6 years made you important? That spending $40,000 a year gave you ownership over this property? I shook my head. You spent $240,000 here over 6 years. I bought it for $18 million. You were customers. Valuable ones, but customers nonetheless. Mom started crying. Actually crying, loud, hiccuping sobs that seemed almost performative. How could you do this to us? She wailed. Your own family. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. Left me home from Disney World when I was 12? Dismissed my Stanford acceptance when I was 16? Called me the family disappointment at every holiday for 2 decades. That's not, we didn't. You never once asked about my career. Not once in 11 years. You never asked where I lived or what I did or if I was happy. I kept my voice steady. You sent me a note 3 weeks ago asking me to contribute $500 to Daniela's celebration fund because money is tight for me. You didn't even have my current address. You sent it to an apartment I moved out of 4 years ago. Morgan. Daniela's voice had changed, softer now, almost pleading. Let's talk about this. We're family. We can work this out. Can we? 20 minutes ago, you told me to walk away because it's what I'm good at. Yesterday you told Bradley's parents I was the family embarrassment. This morning you said I couldn't afford lobster Benedict. I was joking. You've been joking my entire life. Immediate consequences. James stepped forward with a tablet. Ms. Harrison, I need your authorization on several matters. Go ahead. First, the Harrison party's resort privileges have been suspended pending investigation of the assault on staff. Roberto has agreed not to press charges, but we've documented everything for our records. Good. Second, the account hold currently stands at $42,847. Company policy requires payment before departure. All credit cards on file for the Harrison party have been declined. Bradley made a strangled noise. Third, we've received 17 formal complaints from other guests regarding the behavior of this party over the past 5 days. Per resort policy, we can terminate their stay effective immediately. I considered this. What's the staff preference? Staff would like them gone, ma'am. Morale has been challenging. I looked at my family. Mom was still crying. Dad had gone gray. Daniela was gripping Bradley's arm like a lifeline. Bradley's parents looked like they wanted to disappear into the marble floor. Have their belongings packed and moved to the lobby, I said. Give them until morning to arrange alternative accommodations. The account balance is due before they leave the property. Morgan, please. Dad stepped forward. Let's discuss this like reasonable people. I'm sure we can come to an arrangement. The arrangement is, you pay your bill and leave my property. Your property. He laughed bitterly. You're going to lord this over us forever, aren't you? No, I said. I'm going to handle this like any other guest who assaults my staff and harasses my other customers. You're being asked to leave. That's not revenge, that's policy. We're your family. You've made it very clear over the years that I'm not really part of this family. I'm just honoring your wishes. Escalating consequences. The next morning I learned that the fallout had begun. Bradley's parents had called their driver at 6 a.m. to arrange emergency transport off the island. Before leaving, Mrs. Winthrop informed Daniela, in front of the entire lobby, that perhaps the Winthrop family had made a mistake in accepting this match. 10 years, Daniela screamed at her. 10 years and you're abandoning us because of one bad vacation? It's not about the vacation, dear. Mrs. Winthrop's voice was ice. It's about learning that your family has been lying to us for a decade. Your father claimed to have business connections, real estate investments, successful ventures. Instead we discover this. Bradley didn't defend his wife. He stood silently beside his parents, already mentally distancing himself from the Harrison name. By noon, the family's situation had deteriorated further. I was in my office when James knocked. Ma'am, there's been a development. Mr. Harrison attempted to pay the account balance, but his primary business account has been frozen. Frozen? Apparently there's an IRS investigation. Something about unreported income and fraudulent deductions. The freeze went into effect yesterday, but he only discovered it when he tried to make the transfer. I processed this. That's not related to us. No, ma'am. It appears to be a pre-existing issue. But it means he can't pay the $42,847. What about the others? Mrs. Harrison's personal accounts are linked to Mr. Harrison's. Daniela's accounts are joint with her husband, who has refused to authorize any payments until this mess is sorted out. Bradley's parents have explicitly instructed their financial managers to deny any requests related to the Harrison party. So they're stuck here unable to pay. Correct. And per policy, we can't release their belongings until the balance is settled. I sat back in my chair. This is quite a situation. Shall I contact legal, ma'am? I thought about it. Thought about 12-year-old me watching Disney photos from grandma's couch. Thought about 16-year-old me taking 3 buses to Stanford. Thought about 23-year-old me walking out of Christmas dinner without saying goodbye. No legal, I said finally. Not yet. Let me talk to them. I found my family in the lobby surrounded by their packed luggage, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. Dad sat with his head in his hands. Mom's mascara had smeared into raccoon circles. Daniela was on her phone, frantically trying to reach Bradley, who'd stopped answering. I understand there's a payment issue, I said. Dad looked up. For the first time in my life, I saw something like defeat in his eyes. Morgan, I don't know what to say. It's complicated. There were some mistakes on our taxes. My accountant said it was fine, but apparently... How much do you owe them? He was quiet for a long moment. They're claiming $1.2 million in back taxes and penalties. They've frozen everything. The business accounts, personal savings, even the house is under review. Mom made a wounded sound. I see. I sat down across from them. And you have no way to pay the resort bill. I can get it sorted. I just need time. A few weeks, maybe a month. I'm not extending credit to guests who've assaulted my staff. Then what do you want from us? Daniela snapped. To grovel? To apologize? Fine. I'm sorry, Morgan. I'm sorry we made fun of you. I'm sorry we didn't include you in things. Is that what you wanted to hear? No, Daniela. I don't want to hear anything from you. I kept my voice calm. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You've spent your entire life believing you could treat people however you wanted without repercussion. Staff. Service workers. Your own sister. You thought being a Harrison made you untouchable. We're your family. Your guest who violated resort policy. That's all you are to me right now. Final consequences. I made a decision. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm going to cover your resort bill. All $42,847. Consider it a gift. Dad's head snapped up. You are. Yes. But I have conditions. Anything. First, you leave this property within the hour. You don't come back. Any of you. Azure Cove and all Paramount Coastal Holdings properties are permanently closed to the Harrison family. Fine. That's fine. Second, you don't contact me. Not for money, not for help, not for holidays. I'll reach out if and when I'm ready. That may be never. Morgan. Those are my conditions. If you violate them, I'll pursue the assault charges that Roberto declined to press. I'll make sure the security footage of Dad pushing him into that wall goes public. And I'll let the Winthrops know exactly how much of Bradley's investment in Dad's business was actually used for personal expenses. Dad went white. How do you know about that? I know a lot of things, Dad. I've made it my business to know things. It's how I built a $340 million company while you were busy not asking about my life. Nobody spoke. Do we have an agreement? One by one they nodded. Good. I stood. James will arrange your transport to the airport. There's a flight to Miami at 4:30. You should make it. I turned to leave. Morgan. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Are you happy? In your life, I mean. Are you happy? I stopped at the door. I have a partner who loves me. A career I built myself. 14 properties across 3 countries. Staff who respect me because I've earned it, not because I demand it. I looked back at her. His mom. I'm happy. Happier than I ever was as part of this family. Her face crumpled. I walked out. 3 months later I received a letter. Not from my parents, from Grandma. She'd passed away 2 years earlier, but her estate lawyer had been instructed to send this on my 33rd birthday. Dear Morgan, if you're reading this, I kept my promise to stay quiet about your success. You asked me not to tell them and I didn't. But I want you to know, I watched every interview. I saved every article. I have a scrapbook full of pictures of your hotels, your company announcements, your charity work. You became everything you wrote in that journal. Everything. I left you my house, not because you need it but because it's where you learned to dream. Do with it what you want. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I always was. Love, Grandma. P.S. Your parents came to me last year asking for money. I told them I'd given everything to charity. It wasn't true, but it felt right. I laughed through tears at that last line. That was Grandma, sharp until the very end. I flew to her house the following week. It was a small cottage in upstate New York, surrounded by oak trees and silence. I hadn't been there since I was 17. Marcus came with me. We walked through the rooms together, finding memories in every corner. The kitchen where Grandma taught me to cook. The living room where we'd watched old movies. The bedroom where I'd cried over Disney photos. What do you want to do with it? Marcus asked. I don't know yet. I sat on the porch swing looking out at the trees. Maybe a retreat. Somewhere for kids who feel like they don't belong. Somewhere they can learn that their family's opinion isn't the only one that matters. He sat beside me taking my hand. That sounds perfect. I learned something this summer, I said. At the resort watching my family implode. I thought seeing them face consequences would feel like victory. Like revenge. Did it? No. I shook my head. It felt like closure. Like finally closing a door I'd been standing in front of for 30 years, waiting to be invited in. And now I'm building my own house. My own family. People I choose, not people I'm obligated to. I squeezed his hand. I'm done waiting for approval from people who were never going to give it. My phone buzzed. A message from James at Azure Cove. James Chin. Revenue up 8% since July. Staff morale highest it's been in years. Also, we received a letter from Mr. Thomas Harrison requesting a meeting to discuss investment opportunities in Paramount Coastal Holdings. Should I respond? I looked at that message for a long time. Then I typed back. Morgan Harrison. No response necessary. Add him to the blocked sender list. I put my phone away and looked at the oak trees at the house where I'd learned to dream, at the man beside me who saw me clearly. The Harrison family would figure out their own problems. The IRS investigation. Bradley's divorce filing. James had mentioned it last week. Mom's growing isolation as her social circle learned the truth about their wealthy friends. That wasn't my responsibility anymore. I had 14 properties to run. A grandmother's legacy to honor. A future to build. And not a single person left to prove wrong. 6 months later, Azure Cove was named the #1 luxury resort in the Caribbean by Travel Plus Leisure magazine. The article featured an interview with the owner, a 33-year-old woman named Morgan Harrison, who had built a hospitality empire from nothing. The interviewer asked about her background, her family, her path to success. Morgan smiled and gave the same answer she always gave. I learned early that the people who are supposed to lift you up aren't always the ones who do. Sometimes you have to build your own ladder. And once you reach the top. She looked out at the ocean, at the resort she owned, at the life she'd created. You get to decide who's worth bringing with you. She never mentioned her family by name. She didn't need to. The story spoke for itself.